Did I just find the perfect American light rail? I'm here on the west bank of the Hudson River, opposite Manhattan, to check out a fantastic transit system that nobody seems to talk about that much. This is the New Jersey Transit Hudson Bergen Light Rail. It serves multiple urban cores, has the second highest ridership per mile of an American LRT system, and saw land along it go from this to this. And all that with just 17 miles of track. So what made this little light rail work so well? And does it deserve a bigger spotlight? We're riding the entire system to find out. And we begin right here at Hoboken Terminal in Hoboken, New Jersey. Besides being the terminus of several New Jersey Transit commuter rail lines and the PATH train, it is also one of the major stations on the Hudson Bergen Light Rail. Hoboken Terminal is of course located in Hoboken, New Jersey, one of several municipalities served by the Hudson Bergen Light Rail. From the terminal, the light rail parallels NJT commuter rail tracks for a short distance before splitting at a Y, with services traveling both north and south. Northbound services pass through Hoboken, Weehawken, Union City, and North Bergen, where they terminate at
Tonelle Avenue Station.
This particular route is weekday only. Southbound services meanwhile pass through Jersey City to 8th Street in Bayonne. A third service connects Tonelle Avenue with West Side Avenue in Jersey City. Hoboken Terminal dates back to 1907, when it was opened by the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western Railroad. Its original clock tower was destroyed in 1942 for the war effort, but a modern replica was completed in 2007. Walking through the concourse past the commuter trains and near a walkway overlooking the Manhattan skyline, we reach the platforms for the light rail. Also, my tour guide and co-narrator for this adventure is none other than essay-length comment writer and former Jersey City resident, Avery the Cuban American. Take it away, Avery.
We jump on the next outbound train, which turns south at the Y and takes us one stop down the line to Newport Station, downtown Jersey City, formerly Pavonia, Newport. The Hudson Bergen Light Rail has a fleet of Kinky Chariot light rail vehicles made up of the shorter 2000 series and longer 5000 series. Trains often feature two 2000 series cars or one car of each type. The Newark Light Rail, a few miles away, uses identical trains, although their wheels and tracks have a different profile.
Now here's the thing you need to know about the Jersey side of the Hudson River. Not too long ago, much of this area was covered in train tracks. Besides Hoboken, 4 other rail terminals connected passengers to Manhattan-bound ferries. And as you might imagine, all this infrastructure took up a lot of land. But then, rail industry consolidation and declining ridership eventually meant that only one terminal was needed. So tracks to the rest were removed, leaving tons and tons of land ripe for development. And boy, did this land get developed.
On the site of the Erie Railroad's old Pavonia terminal, we find Newport, which was developed in large part by Mr. Samuel J. LaFrac in the 1980s. Today it features housing and office towers, as well as the Newport Center Mall. As far as malls go in the 21st century, it's doing pretty well, thanks in no small part to PATH trains, buses, jitneys, and of course the Hudson Bergen Light Rail. It also had one of the last Sears stores in the US, which closed last year, and I'm sure City Nerd would appreciate the trackside accessible Cheesecake Factory.
Back on the train, we snake through the heart of Jersey City on newly built right-of-way, traveling in the medians and along sides of streets, where we have priority signaling. This area is known as Exchange Place, but that's not because it's a modern financial center. Instead, this was the site of the Pennsylvania Railroad's Jersey City Terminal, which became known as Exchange Place in the 1920s, as it exchanged passengers between commuter trains, streetcars, ferries, and subway services to Manhattan.
We are now on the oldest portion of the Hudson Bergen Light Rail, which opened in sections in April and November 2000, 7 years after the system was approved by the NJT board in 1993 to help redevelop the decaying west bank of the Hudson. Planners deliberately chose to route the light rail here along the coast, rather than more built-up Grove Street in order to spur development. This seems to have worked. Exchange Place is now a booming financial district, nicknamed Wall Street West. It's home to the 2 tallest buildings in New Jersey, both opened after the light rail.
We get off the train at Essex Street, the only portion of the right-of-way to run in mixed traffic. Just a few steps away is one of Jersey City's most iconic symbols, the Colgate clock. Yes, Colgate as in Colgate toothpaste, which has a diameter of 50 feet. This was built in 1924 and initially sat on top of a Colgate plant here in Jersey City. It's also the 8th largest clock in the world, and it's mandatory for pilots to sight it if they're below Class B airspace.
Now, while Hoboken Terminal is the only active rail terminal left on the West Shore, we're close to another one that's still standing in Liberty State Park, and we want to check it out. But since it's a mile away from the nearest light rail station that's not across some water, we're going to have to take an aquatic detour to reach it. The Liberty Landing Ferry will be taking us from here at Warren Street to Liberty Landing Marina, where we'll walk to our destination.
We are running for our ferry. By we, I mean me and Avery, who has written most of the script for this video at this point. To be honest, I'm not optimistic about our odds, but we are getting close. No, it's leaving. It's letting her rip. Well, we missed the ferry, which means we're going to have to wait an hour for the next one. I'm sure that's going to throw off the pace of this video.
Could you just fix that in post?
Oh yeah! To be honest, I'm not optimistic about our odds, but we are getting close. Well, we're in luck. The ferry isn't even here yet. Our ferry starts in Manhattan before crossing the Hudson to Warren Street. The trip from there across the historic Morris Canal Basin to Liberty State Park takes just 90 seconds, quite possibly the shortest ferry ride in the New York metro area, if not the United States. From Liberty Landing, we take a walk to Communipaw Terminal, the Central Railroad of New Jersey's former terminal, where 10.5 million people from Ellis Island entered the country back in the day. Today, it's preserved as a museum, visitor center, and departure point for tourist ferries to Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. Just steps away is the Empty Sky 9/11 Memorial.
There is an HBLR stop for Liberty State Park, but it's a full half-hour walk away from Communipaw Terminal. Proposals have been made over the years to build a tourist train or trolley between the two locations, and until that gets built, we have another option: Via Microtransit. Via was created by Jersey City in 2020 to address the infamous last-mile problem, offering affordable on-demand van rides between people's destinations and larger-scale forms of transit such as the HBLR. We use it to visit the Liberty Science Center, home to the original Hoberman Sphere, the second largest in the world. It's basically a giant version of one of those desk toys.
What was this video about again? Oh yeah, light rail. We've made it back around to the HBLR at Liberty State Park Station. Here, I buy a physical ticket, which I scan to activate. The HBLR operates on a proof of payment system similar to many other American light rails. However, I was never asked to display my fare during this entire day of filming.
We board a southbound train and turn onto the West Side Avenue branch. This used to be the C&J Newark and New York branch. Our stops are actually former C&J commuter rail stations, and they serve the same communities that built up around the old railway. The light rail currently stops at West Side Ave, but has been extended 0.7 miles to Bayfront, a former industrial site set to become the largest mixed-income development in the New York metro area. You can see tracks already laid in the crosswalks, as this is part of early construction work for the project in 2020.
But while we wait for that to get built, we head down the street to the Miss America Diner, a 1942 O'Mahony diner where we'll be having lunch courtesy of my wonderful Patreon supporters. If you become a supporter, you'll get early access to uploads and bonus content, like my trip on the Santiago Metro in Chile, or the longest Greyhound trip I've ever taken, or Miles in Transit and I reacting to our first video together.
Back on the light rail, we head east to link back up with the rest of the system. As we merge with the branch to Bayonne, we pass the Cave and Point Ave maintenance facility, HBLR HQ, and what appears to be a storage yard for all kinds of New Jersey Transit paraphernalia. Then, after Liberty State Park, our train winds through a strange series of curves. The area between Jersey Ave and Marin Boulevard stations were pretty empty before the light rail's arrival. Now, it's home to the Jersey City Medical Center, which relocated there in 2004 to be close to the light rail, as well as Liberty Harbor North, an 86-acre development planned to have 6,000 housing units when fully completed. North of the Medical Center is an elementary and middle school built in 2005, the latter I went to growing up. Many of my classmates rode the HBLR to and from school.
And the urbanism doesn't end here. Indeed, Jersey City has been a juggernaut when it comes to transit-oriented development. Path stations became initial TOD hubs in the 1980s, and with the promise of light rail in the 90s, developers started building on vacant areas where the system was planned to run. The city then built 26,000 units of housing between 2000 and 2022, more than triple the per capita housing production of the New York metro area as a whole. And if you build it here, they will come. 36% of Hudson County residents, and about half the people in Jersey City commute by transit, the highest percentages nationwide. outside of New York City itself. The Hudson Bergen Light Rail has the highest ridership per mile of any American light rail system other than Seattle. Dang, Hudson County really sounds like a great place to live. If you can afford it. West Side Avenue trains don't stop in Hoboken Terminal at all, and instead continue north through Hoboken and Weehawken, passing over the subterranean Northeast Corridor and the Lincoln Tunnel. This right-of-way was most recently used by Conrail. NJT actually helped them move their operations inland so this could become light rail. Port Imperial Station and the transit-oriented development around it sit on the former site of Weehawken Terminal, the northernmost of Hudson County's 5 old train stations, which was served by the New York Central. Departing trains would pass through the Weehawken Tunnel under Bergen Hill to serve points west. And now this tunnel has become part of the HBLR as well, the only one on the system. NJT widened it for 2 tracks, and they even built an underground station in the middle, which we'll visit in a moment.
Secret tunnel. Oh hey, the mic is still on. We emerged into Tonelle Avenue Station, the northernmost terminus of the Hudson Bergen Light Rail, and board a return train south, getting off 1 stop later at Bergenline Avenue. This is the only underground station on the Hudson Bergen Light Rail. It opened in 2006 and sits 160 feet below ground, accessible only by a bank of high-speed elevators.
Bergenline Avenue is also the only HBLR station in Union City, which I've visited before on this channel to ride dollar vans. Back underground, we board a southbound train which takes us back down into Weehawken.
Fans of the hit musical Hamilton may know that Weehawken is where Aaron Burr killed Alexander Hamilton in a duel in 1804. While a monument to the duel is located on top of the Palisades, the Hudson Bergen Light Rail runs across the exact spot where Hamilton was killed.
We pass the western ventilation shafts for the Lincoln Tunnel, along with its famous corkscrew entrance. Our next destination is 9th Street and Congress Street, which is unique in that it serves 2 different municipalities. It's named for 9th Street in Hoboken, where the tracks actually sit, as well as Congress Street on top of the Palisades in Jersey City, which is accessible by an elevator and a footbridge.
Name me one other station where the station's entrance is in one municipality, but the station's platform is in another municipality.
You know, I'm sure that Cuban-American guy in my comments is probably typing an essay-length comment about that right now. Wait a minute.
Really?
The next train takes us back to Hoboken, where we'll be boarding one more train south to Bayonne. And this is a special one. On weekdays during rush hour, select trains from Hoboken to 8th Street, including ours, operate a unique express service called the Bayonne Flyer, which runs non-stop through some stations. We ride down to Liberty State Park, slowly passing a few stops, before reaching the system's HQ and yard and heading further south into Bayonne. It's here that the Bayonne Flyer picks up speed and zooms through more stations without stopping.
You'll notice that we're running on the left side of the island platform in the shot, which is opposite how trains normally run in the US. That's because the traditional southbound tracks curve out to serve the platforms, while the traditional northbound runs run straight, allowing for higher speeds. Thus, the Hudson Bergen Light Rail adjusts their operations to allow trains like ours to hit their maximum speed of 55 miles per hour, and the line itself is designed for speeds of up to 80.
This right-of-way is once again former CNJ trackage, the CNJ Main Line. Finally, the now elevated and single-tracked line reaches 8th Street in Bayonne, the southern terminus of the Hudson Bergen Light Rail, whose station design was modeled after a former CNJ station. I think the HBLR is American light rail at its finest. It connects and promotes dense, walkable development, along with major transit centers. It speaks to both the power of good transit and the power of good places for the transit to go. Get that synchronicity wrong, and who knows what you'll end up with. Yeah, that one's on the to-do list for the near future. The HBLR also avoids the typical American light rail trend of trying to be a metro system with smaller, slower trains. Don't get me wrong, systems like Seattle's Link are fun, but their routes would really be more useful with metro trains. Instead, the HBLR fills the gap between larger-scale rail, ferries, and localized bus services. I actually wonder if this is why we don't talk about it more. It's just one part of this mess.
The HBLR of today is ripe for expansion, with all kinds of plans and proposals being floated over the years. Perhaps most notably, one recurring proposal would have the Hudson Bergen Light Rail actually serve Bergen County. Yes, despite the Hudson Bergen Light Rail having Bergen in its name, it doesn't go there yet, and the only Bergen Light Rail you can currently ride is in Norway. But besides this, All kinds of development projects are being planned along the line, creating more transit-oriented commercial and residential space in the years to come. So in short, we need to stop ignoring the Hudson-Bergen light rail and start building more transit like it.
Huge shout out to Avery for suggesting I do this video over a year ago, being my tour guide and writing a lot of my script. He compiled way more facts about the light rail and its surroundings than I had time to include here, so check out the attached appendix for more HBLR content. If it's not there right now and you're watching on Patreon, it will be there soon. If you're watching the regular upload, it will be down there. Be sure to subscribe and consider checking out my Patreon if you're already a follower. See you all next week.